Okay, so I'm gonna do something I don't think I've ever done before, or anyone for that matter. Today I'm gonna be doing what if Deku or Izuku Midoriya went to the Akame ga Kill world. And the way I'm going to do that is Izuku's going to die. Oh, sorry. Anyway. When Izuku goes to sleep after being stabbed and shot multiple times by a villain. And Izuku did become the #1 hero, so he had mastered One for All, and his quirk had awakened. And I'm gonna say his quirk was something called Supercharge. Basically, it amps up. He can absorb kinetic energy and release it at any point. Any form of kinetic energy. Anyway, so Izuku then woke up, looking around, seeing people he's never seen before. A woman with brown hair and green eyes. I think that's the color of Tatsumi's hair and eyes. And he also saw a man. Anyway, sorry about me keep getting distracted. Anyway, when Izuku time skip. Izuku gets home. And the moment he gets home, he starts walking. And his new parents, like, what? He's only like a few days old. How is he able to walk? Anyway, whilst Izuku was walking around, he picked up a really big book and started reading. And after reading, he read about how the Emperor, everything about how the Emperor did this, that, the other thing, the minister, imperial arms, everything like that.
Isn't she just the cutest?
And he's like, huh, this place seems a lot like my old world, but this isn't Japan.
Unpack the ingredients. Avanti. That's it? Just one banana? Where are all the rest?
I don't know. The box was full when we picked it up, right, Princess? I'm really sorry, Frosty.
Ah, well, I guess it will have to be the cherry peanut sundaes today. You will help me, Wilson, see?
No problemo, Frosty. Sit right there, Princess. I'll be down in a minute.
Anyway, you know, Izuku, now, a few years later, you know, he's Tatsumi's age. Lay down. He's Tatsumi's age.
Cherry peanut deliciousness. Enough for the whole town.
That sure looks yummy, doesn't it, Princess? Princess?
Mamma mia!
There you are, you little cutie, you. And you're all messy-wessy.
Wilson, this is no good. I've got monkey germs all in my ice cream.
Sorry, Frosty.
What were you thinking to bring a monkey on your deliveries? Now I have to clean everything up and make the ice cream all over again. Huh? Huh? Oh, who's doing that?
Princess, those cherries are for the sundaes. Aw, I just love it when she does that.
Maybe you two go now, see?
Okay, Frostini. Come on, Princess. Did you see that? So cute.
And so messy. Ah.
Okay,
Anyway,
Princess, for the rest
I'm
of the
sorry I
day,
keep getting
this is for you
distracted.
and me. Go back to being sweet and cute. Princess! Gophers! I've lost her! Princess! Where are you? I've got to find her. She's my responsibility. Princess!
Anyway,
Princess! Where are you?
so,
Princess!
you know, he goes to that one super rich family's house, and he's like, huh. You know, he does the classic Midoriya, thank you,
Better go tell Matamba what happened.
everything.
Hi, Wilson. How's monkey sitting going?
I've lost Princess, and I'm really worried. I'm the worst
Anyway.
babysitter ever.
I'm sure it's not your fault, Wilson. I mean, monkeys are cute and all, but they can sometimes be kind of bananas.
Bananas? Of course. Thanks, Goku.
Oh, I cleaned every nook and cranny. No more monkey germs at Frostini's. Oh, not you again! Frostini just scrubbed the whole factory.
Princess, there you are. I was so worried. Oh no, I'm not falling for it this time. Not cute, not cute. Aw, who's a cutie little monkey? You are, that's right.
Mamma mia.
Thanks for keeping an eye on her, Faustini. But I better take her back to the safari park. Come on, Princess.
That's the best idea I heard all day. trouble?
Trouble? Nah, she was a perfect little princess. I'm just happy I got to spend the day with her.
Well, if that's
Anyway,
how would you like to monkey suit?
you know, the night raid thing happened. If you haven't seen Akame Got Killed, go watch it. It's really, really good. Personally, I love Akame. She's my favorite. And that is going to be the ship. Yes. Deku X account, technically Tatsumi, but Deku. You know what? When they were about to name him Tatsumi, he spoke up and said, no, Izuku. And you know, he was a baby at this point, so they were super confused. He's like, okay, our baby is a genius. And what do you want your name to be? You know, he says, Izuku. And they call him Izuku and whatever Tatsumi's last name is. I don't really think that any of the Akame, I just don't think we know any of the Akame Got Killed characters' last names. Anyway. So, Izuku sees Night Raid and he's like, are they villains? Or evil people? And then he remembers, he sees Akame and he's like, so that's the one off the wanted posters. And Izuku did keep his quirk. Yes, he's going to have a quirk. Oh, I'm making this. This is going to be fun. I'm going to love making this. No, he runs off. You know, he activates One for All. He starts charging Supercharge. When he starts running, he activates Supercharge. So it charges up, so it builds up kinetic energy they can use in a single strike. You know, he's running. He's picking up a lot of speed. You know, he starts cranking it up to 100% of his full power. The moment he gets to 50, he gets outside and he runs into Bulat in the Incursio armor. But he doesn't know Bulat yet. So he just sees a guy in a giant suit of armor and he's like, alright, this is gonna be fun. You know, he cracks his knuckles. He runs. You know, he full charges One for All. He runs up to Bulat. And I'm gonna say he's nearing his limit with Supercharge of how much kinetic energy he can hold. And he's like, take this! Delaware! Detroit! Smash! He punches Bulat with 100% combined with enough kinetic energy. Enough kinetic energy to punch a hole through walls, like hundreds of walls of steel. You know, remember this. I'm gonna say that All Might in his prime was 75% of what Izuku is now, and his quirk builds kinetic energy to release it. Once he punches, you know, Bulat's armor is cracking. He doesn't break the Imperial arms, it's just the armor. Like, parts of it is cracked. It's like, you know, Bulat, he coughed up blood, because he's never been hit that hard. He's never been hit that freaking hard. Because that punch, may I remind you, is double Prime All Might's strength. I'm just going to make it double. Maybe even triple, if he really pushes it. I'm sorry. I remembered something funny. Anyway. Hush. Hush. Hi. Can I have a hug? Come here. Oh, baby hug. I love my little sister. Anyway. So, you know, Izuku, he's running to go save the girl. And he's like, alright, what can I do? The guard says, just stay here and fight her. And then Akame comes out of the bushes about to, running really fast. And she, tries to cut Izuku. Izuku dodges. He's like, whoa, 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 why are you trying to kill me? I didn't do anything. She says, you're an Imperial Arms user protecting my target. You are getting in the way. You must be eliminated. And he's like, what's an Imperial Arms? And she says, what you did to Bulat. That weird punch. What Imperial Arms do you have? He's like, I don't even know what Imperial Arms is. And what I did was a special ability I've been born with. In fact, he activates One for all throughout his body, full charge. He starts it at 20 just to see where he is compared. He starts it at 5 to see where he's compared to her and how high he has to crank it up to beat her. Hush. Oh.
That means I'm not ready for the masquerade ball. My toesies are getting cold.
Izuku, Leone sees a kid, because what happened to Izuku, Tatsumi in the anime, Leone taking his money, happens again to Izuku. And he's like, dang it, all my money! He's super upset about it, but he's like, I guess I'm stuck without it. So, Leone grabs Akame, and she's like, what are you doing? And she's like, hold up, I owe this guy an explanation. And Izuku looks at her. It takes him a second. You're that chick who stole my money! And she's like, yeah, that was me. He's like, what? Give me one good reason I shouldn't punch you in the next week. Also, what's your quirk? They look at him. They both say in unison, quirk? And he's like, oh, right, they don't have those in this world. So, what is this thing you call him? You know what? Never mind. Ask later. First, what do you mean you owe me an explanation? Of what? Why? Leone says, why we're doing this. Uh-oh, my apologies. Anyway, Izuku, he's aggravated. Leona's like, let me show you. She goes, like, real soulless, or whatever. I don't know. Izuku, he walks off. Leone punches down the door. Izuku sees everything. He sees his two friends. And then I'm gonna say they can actually see the lightning now. Lightning and no, don't touch that. Red and black and red marks start running around Izuku's body, forming certain symbols. And there was one, you know, like, you know how Akame's thing had, like, the red tear things coming off her eyes, I think? It does that. And a few other things. And in his eye, both of his eyes, was written the symbol of death. You know, Izuku backs up. He looks at the girl. You know, like a black tear runs down his face. And he says, "You're dead. Where you stand." You know, he draws his blade, and then he vanishes. And then appears turned around with his sheathing his blade. And when the blade clicks back into the correct position, the girl screams in agony. She falls apart. Literally. Like, she shatters into a million pieces. You know, and the markings start disappearing.
Are these squares?
Izuku's like,
Well, what are they?
"I'm sorry about hitting your friend." And Leona says, he needed it. You know, Leone,
Are these squares?
you know, Bulat gets up.
Betcha.
You know, not mine. What's Shell? Yeah, Shell. You know, she picks him up. And he's still wearing Curcio. And she's walking towards Lubbock and Mine to get him out of here. Akame walks up with the kid. And Mine's like, "Why are you bringing this guy with us, Akame?" And she's like, "He has mass potential and he wishes to join us."
We have a bubble maker.
He looks at Mine and is like, "You remind me of someone." And she's like, and she says, "Let me guess, a super hot chick?" And he says, "No, of a really annoying Pomeranian." And she's like, "Oh my god, what did you just say?" And you know, Leone spits, she starts she just busts out laughing. You know, everyone, even Akame gets a chuckle out of that one. And he's like, "Dang, I'm pretty cool." You know, he gives himself a quick pat on the back. You know, he feels... So, Izuku...
We'll help you find your shoe, Goofy. Now, where were you getting dressed?
Don't touch! You know, he says... He looks at Akame. He chuckles a little bit, and he says, "You know, you're kind of cute when you laugh." And Leone, you know, everyone except for Bulat, who's still having no, don't touch that! Who's still having trouble catching his breath because of how hard he was punched.
That's a pretty good costume, Chicken Pete. But not the best, huh?
Oh.
I didn't mean to say it wasn't the best. Graham crackers.
You know, Izuku,
Find the best color to wear.
you know, he's like, "What? Did I say something weird?" And everyone, and then Leone is like, "No, you said the right thing at the right time, buddy." You know, patting his back, laughing. You know, while at Akame's expense, he's just having a panic attack over there. And, you know, Izuku walks. You know, they get to Izuku. You know, they get to the base. They get to Night Raid's base. You know, Izuku gets up. He's like, "Oh, my head." You know, you know, it's the next day. You know, he was the first one to wake up. So he's like, "All right, They showed me around a little bit yesterday, and I saw a training ground. I'm gonna go over there to hone my skills. You know, Izuku he does a light, he hops out of his window, and he charges up One For All at like 100%, and he says, alright, time for a run around the forest. Not 100, he charges it at like 20 to 30. Stop that! Don't touch! Then he vanishes, because, with the combined power of his quirk that gains energy anytime he gains kinetic energy, which is pretty much any movement energy, he gets stronger. So, he immediately breaks the sound barrier almost instantaneously while running. And everyone inside just hears a massive boom. And everyone's like, what's going on? Are we under attack? The boss is like, no, there was a green-haired boy running around the forest. The boss just gets there, and she's, stepping around a bit. And everyone's like, boss, are you okay? Are we under attack? And she says, no. Some green-haired boy was running around. And then he said, who are you? And I said, I'm the boss of Night Raid. Because I'm just going to say she knew beforehand. And he's like, oh, I'll bring you there. And then she says, and then I was here. And then I was brought here. And they were like, nothing else happened? And then she says, no, nothing else could happen. He broke a barrier where I couldn't. He made a loud boom, and then I couldn't hear anything for a few seconds. And then after that, I was here. And mine's like, what did he do? He comes back after doing like 500 laps around the Night Raid's base, which is, the entire forest where the Night Raid's base is. He sees someone. He sees a few spies. He sees people that he just thinks they're camping, and then he disappears again. He's like, he comes out of the brush line, he's sweating. He's like, oh, hey, sorry if I woke you up. And they're like, what did you do? He says, I broke the sound barrier. And they're like, sound barrier? And he's like, I hit Mach 1. And mine's like, no way. Because I'm going to say she knows about it because her gun pretty much does that. And she's like, no way. You can move faster than Pumpkin can fire? And he's like, what's Pumpkin? The giant sniper rifle you were carrying? If so, then yeah. I can dodge most 50 caliber shots from point blank range. Which, might I add, is mighty impossible, but I'm making it where he's this strong for a reason. Izuku says, alright, so, what we got on the agenda? Actually, I have to finish my daily training regimen. And everyone's like, your daily training regimen? He's like, yeah, normally I run about 500 kilometers before I do anything else. 50 or 70 kilometers. And they're like, did you already... Holy crap, how fast are you? And he says, fast enough to break the sound barrier. And everyone's like, you right. Don't touch that. Don't touch. Don't touch. Don't touch. I'm banking butt. Don't touch. You're a bad Lucas. Anyway. He says, and then, I'm gonna say he took off his shirt at this point, and all the girls are like, they don't even care what he's saying. And, you know, Bulat's trying to figure out, what is this kid? That. Stop touching that. You're going to break it. Get out from over there. You know. And then Izuku, you know, Bulat's like, so, do you want to train with me? And he's like, oh, sure. Let me finish my training regimen for today. And everyone's like, what? You know, the girls snap out of it. They're like, what? That wasn't the end? And he says, no, that was only my legs. I need to change my upper body. And he's like, and they're like, how? It's like, well, first I have to bench press a boulder, and then crush said boulder, do 1,000 push-ups, 1,000, like 10,000 push-ups, 10,000 sit-ups, 10,000 squats, and then I'll be warmed up. And they're like, dang! And they're like, okay, good luck with that. And like a few minutes later, he's like, alright, who wants to fight? I'm warmed up. And Bulat's like, you know, you did me dirty yesterday, so I'll fight you. And he's like, what? You weren't there last night, were you? And he's like, oh, right, I was wearing my armor. And he says, oh, you were the guy I punched at 20%. At 50% of my power, combining a little bit of my other one. You're the guy I punched at 25%, combined with a little bit of the kinetic energy. And he's like, 25%? He's like, yeah, I broke the sound barrier with around 40? And he's like, what is you at 100%? And he says, I could probably level a mountainside with a single flick of my finger. With a punch, I could probably make a crater the size of, you know, he starts doing the math in his head. It's a lot of math. And like 2 minutes later, he's like, I could probably make the crater about the size, depending on how hard, where I'm hitting and how I hit, can completely change the outcome of the effect. If I'm hitting with a shallow punch to where it creates a vortex, I could probably make a hurricane with a single punch. I could probably make a category 5 hurricane with a punch. If it was a full-on punch with no recoil, it would probably make a crater the size of the Capitol. I would turn the Capitol to ash with a punch. And he's like, dear Lord. You know, Akame is like, he's so strong. You know, everyone's like, yeah? You know, and he's like, alright, you ready to train? And he's like, sure. You know, they start fighting, and, you know, Bulat starts swinging around like a pole, and they, sit. You know, Midoriya says, hold on, I'm gonna critique your fighting style a bit. While, you know, he was fighting, he's like, alright, let me critique your style a little bit. If you hold it like in this angle, and move your foot that and around here, it should give you a little bit more control while allowing you to output a little bit more power. While also giving you a little bit more speed. You know, he tries this out and it works surprisingly well. And he's like, how do you know this? He's like, I used to know someone who used pole arms and was really good at it. So, you know, Izuku is, and he's like, huh. And he's like, alright, so, let's have a quick sparring match. I won't use any of my power. You don't use your Incursio. That armor stuff. that gives you a weird strength and defense boost. And he's like, alright. So, they start fighting. It's a good fight. And he's like, alright, let's do hand to hand. Let's see how good you are in that. They start throwing good hands. I'm talking like All Might versus Nomu type level of hands. And, Midoriya's like, huh. Your fighting style is almost perfected. It actually looks like my old mentor's a little bit. Really close to it. And he's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, watch. My mentor's fighting style was completely based around pure strength with a little bit of finesse behind the punches. Anyway. So while Izuku was doing that, Akame, she walks up and says, do you want to spar with me now? He looks at Akame, he's like, huh, sure, you seem like a fun sparring partner. They take out 2 katanas. He's like, so, you use a katana? That's actually the sword from my native homeland. From where I was from. It was actually a very famous weapon. And she's like, huh, what's a katana? He's like, okay, you know what, never mind. They start getting into it. It's like strike after strike. I think I'm a really cool fighting scene from like an anime where, they mostly use swords. I don't know. I can't think of any right now. I'm tired. So, Izuku, is like, alright, hold on. Stop. Right before Akame was about to hit him. No, from Chivalry of the Failed Knight. It's one of those, it's like a scene from that. And he's like, stop. She's just about to hit him in the neck. She's like, why? He's like, your fighting style's all over the place. And she's like, what? Even everyone who was watching was like, what? He's like, yeah, I noticed you keep switching between different fighting styles at random. One for accelerating and then one for a mass hit. One that would fit you, and then he just names a certain fighting style, and she's like, I've never heard of that fighting style before. And he's like, alright, I'll teach it to you.